Hey guys, Patrick Wind here and welcome to this training model in which I'm going to show you how to optimize on ad level. So after we have already realized our optimization on ad set level, where we have reallocated budget, where we have deactivated ad sets and we have duplicated them in order to create micro variations, now we're going into ad level. On ad level, we basically have three options. Either we could edit an existing ad, or we could duplicate and therefore create a new ad, or we could deactivate ads, okay? And depending on the stage of the funnel that we are in, we should either do one option or the other, okay? So when it comes to prospecting, where we all know that the learning phase matters a lot, okay? We should not create new ads within an existing ad set and not duplicate or edit existing ones, because all of this will definitely reinitiate this learning phase, okay? However, in retargeting, we do not care too much about reinitiating the learning phase. So therefore in retargeting, we could easily duplicate and create new ads and edit existing ones. However, what we can still do in prospecting is that we can walk through each of those 5 ad sets and see what are the ads that have performed worst and deactivate them, because deactivating will not affect the learning phase. So let's go through each of them, and let's start with the one where we have spent the most budget, because that's going to be the most important one. So we see within this specific ad set we have 3 different ads, okay? And when I optimize on ad level, I always first preview them to better understand how they were set up, okay? And also, if you see 1 out of 14, it says that it's, so it tells you that it's all placements. If you would click here, you would also see all placement that this specific ad is shown, okay? And then okay, after I've seen the first one, let's take a look at the second one, and let's also see where it is displayed. It's also 1 out of 14, of course, because they're in the same ad set. And basically the big difference is the kind of images that they show. And the third one is a collection ad, which typically gets the best click-through rates. But in this specific ad set, if we now take a look at the numbers, we will see that it had the lowest ROAS. I mean, the ROAS was still okay, but if we just compare to the other ones, it was worse. And that's the collection ad. So mobile newsfeed and desktop newsfeed and Instagram feed shows all the collection below. And actually what we see here is, if we just compare the lowest funnel KPIs, so ROAS and cost per purchase, this one would be our candidate to deactivate, okay? So if you just compare to the others, it had the lowest ROAS, it had the highest cost per purchase, it also had the highest cost per add to cart, it had the highest cost per initiate checkout, and then when we go a little bit up the funnel, we see that besides the fact that this one brought twice the volume that this one brought, it had a lower cost per add to cart, but then cost per website content view was again a bit higher, okay? So overall, I would say that if you just compare this carousel with this collection, which had 3 times higher click-through rates, I would be a strong fan of deactivating this carousel, number 2, and only maintain the ones that have performed the best, okay? And this is of course a very smart move. So we also see that out of the 1,200 euros we have spent on this ad set, on this ad, which had the worst performance of all 3 of them, we actually spent most of the budget. So out of the 1,200 euros, we spent more than 600 euros, 653 euros on the worst ad. So out of these 3, in the relative terms, it's the one with the worst performance. So for me, it's a good candidate to deactivate. okay? And we're gonna stay with the ones that perform even better, okay? And then let's do the same on each of those 4 ad sets, okay? Here we have spent significantly less than in the others, but we see a huge difference when it comes to ROAS. So this one is, for example, very good. And here let's talk about these 2 ones. In the lower funnel, they're pretty similar. Okay, this has double the price of checkout, double the price of add to cart. Then content view is okay again. What about CTR, CPC? Okay, CPC is lower, CTR is higher, so it's a difficult decision. It's a typical dilemma where some KPIs are better, some KPIs are worse. So in this scenario, I would not deactivate anything. I would just leave it as it is. This one was our winner, okay? The other ones were our 2 candidates where we could deactivate one of them, but as they're ambiguous, so in some KPIs better and some KPIs worse, we just leave them as they are. What about the 3rd ad set that we have? Wow, here we once again have a clear winner, this one, but what about the other ones? Can we actually deactivate, for example, the 2nd one? So the carousel number 1. I am so far pretty convinced, but what about the upper funnel KPIs? So when it comes to click-through rates and CPC, let's also take a look at those numbers before we actually deactivate something. Okay, so CTR, wow, for me that's pretty clear. That's not only does it have significantly worse numbers when it comes to click-through rates and cost per click, but it also had worse performance down the funnel. So for me, this one we can perfectly turn off and maintain only our 2 winners. Okay, so 3 out of 5 prospecting ad sets we have already optimized. Let's also take a look at the other 2 ones. Wow, here we have a ROAS of 11, that is nice. Here we have 4 sales, so from volume it's good, but the relative ROAS is lower than in the other one. So I would compare those 2 carousels also on their upper funnel KPIs. Okay, this one is a little bit weird because it has attributed a sale without an add to cart, which is something that sometimes happens. Let me see also the upper funnel KPIs. Click-through rate pretty similar, so for me no clear winner here. So what I would do is I would leave both of them as they are and take a look at the last one. So the last ad set that we still had to optimize, which apparently someone has already deactivated one. We only have 2 anymore. Out of those 2, the second one has much better KPIs down the funnel. But what about upper funnel? So just when it comes to click-through rates and CPC, for example, they're actually pretty identical, a little bit lower in everything, but in order to also leave the algorithm with some room for optimization, I would leave 2 of them active, okay? So this would be the optimization on ad level for prospecting, okay? But what could we do in retargeting? In retargeting, we could always change some of the ad copies, ad creatives of the different URLs that we're sending the people to. Or what we should definitely do is here in DPA include a second option, because right now we only have one specific option. We only have this ad within the ad set. So here we should really duplicate it and come up with some different variations of this ad. For example, we could change we could come up with a different copy, or we could change a standard carousel DPA to a collection ad DPA. So many options that we have, and if this one loads, we'll clearly see that in DPA we can come up with different opportunities which will help us to get the most out of this specific ad set. And for example, we could, as I said, change to a collection, which always gets very good click-through rates. We could change the headline, we could change the text, we could come up with an option of just showing an image. That would also be an idea, but not super recommendable. It's better to work with carousels and collections here. And let's cut draft. Yes, discard. And on the last campaign that we have not taken a look at is the conversion campaign for retargeting. Here we could do the same that we did in prospecting, which definitely does no harm to go into and see which is the one that has performed better, which is the one that has performed worse. So here we see that the second one had better click-through rates, but then the lower funnel KPIs were not here because it hasn't spent anything so far. So we leave it as it is. And then in this one, we see we have two different collections, both of them with amazing click-through rates. So 2 is very good. And both of them with really great ROAS. So my question would here be, can we not duplicate it? Can we not come up with more variations of it? So what I would really like to do is, I would really like to duplicate this one and give it a micro variation, because it brought amazing sales, amazing ROAS, and I would like to see more of this one. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this optimization on ad level as much as I did, and thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.